It feels like it's been a while. Rock stars out there, rock your sacred purpose members. It's been a while. So I was doing my lives. I went on vacation, and I've suspended the Monday lives. I am going to be seeing you guys on Friday. By the way, you guys know that, but if you've been paying attention, but I am going to be with you guys again. I look forward to that. Today, I have an amazing goddess, Jackie Ruddick, and she's going to be talking about something really important. I've been working with Jackie for a while. She's done like certification with me with the energy scanning, and worked with her on really what we're creating. It is happening, like this Black Goddess power movement, or like working on this stuff. And just the thing I love about Jackie is the way she's approaching this is so powerful, because she's really calling out the issues while at the same time talking to the universal love and unity that we are simultaneously. So it's not like those damn white people or something, like, or whatever, even like subtly. Like, it's not like that. It has nothing to do with that. And so there's so many things I love about Jackie. So she's got some spunk to her, and maybe we'll see it today. Because like Jackie, you're one of those lovely heart-centered people, but you got some bang energy too. So we'll see what comes through today as far as that goes. But looking forward to it. And then, yeah, like I said, we might have a couple of downloads for the group too, seeing as we're both tune in and scan and stuff. Who knows? We might have some downloads for you guys. But today we're talking about awakened power for women of color. And so, Jackie, it's just so great to have you here.
It's so great to be here. Thank you so much, Daniel, for inviting me. I'm excited, I'm nervous, and I can't wait to get started.
Yes. Yes. Jackie is stepping into her own power by doing this interview today. For the first of so many more to come. She's been working on this for a long time, but she's just starting to get out on the circuit. So let's give her lots of love, lots of support today. And because this is huge. This is a huge thing. And it's not easy to come out and talk about these sorts of subjects. So I really congratulate you, Jackie, for being willing to be a leader in this case and to bring this forth. So let's get right into it. You're, to talk a little bit more about you as we get into it. You're a big channel. You're a channeler. You've been channeling for a while now, and you share channeled messages with people through your channels out there on social media, and so you're really connected. But yet, you're so connected with having worked in the corporate world as a consultant and more in project management and stuff, and you've seen these dynamics at play as it relates to color, right? Of women of color, like with the stereotypes and everything, if like needing to really not step fully into their power, because if you do, then there's a certain perception that people have of you, if you really are in your power as a woman of color. So I'd love for you to talk to us about that. First of all, we're going to talk about awakened power, but first I wanted to go right at it. Like, what are because it was illuminating for me, maybe some of the things I had already heard, but like some of it was really illuminating for me, the things you were putting in your writings that I was reviewing together with you. Like, tell people, like, what are some of the people that are women of color and aren't, like, what are the things like people don't fully recognize that women of color deal with when it comes to stepping in their power in their careers and business or even their lives? But like, what are the things that people don't understand?
One of the things we don't understand about power is at the moment, for women of all colours, power is seen as something that we have to have. So we step into it, we claim it, we compare ourselves with men. And what we're really doing is asking ourselves is how much power, how much control do we actually have in our life? And we compare that with men, with women of colour, we compare that with men and with men of colour as well. And what happens for women in general The filter about power can be very much whether we've got control as a partner, whether we've got control and power as a parent. For women of color, power seems to have been distilled into how we are valued as laborers. And it doesn't matter who we are, that power seems to come through us being laborers as opposed to being an infinite being. All the successful women that we know, your Beyoncés, your Oprahs, your Kamala Harris, it's their work ethic. It's the fact that they've done so well from their humble beginnings up until now. They've really worked for it. They've really earned that power. And still, how many are there, these powerful women of color? We can count them on one hand. When we're talking about powerful white women, there's a few more. We know we have similar experiences about climbing, if you like, the corporate ladder, climbing the social ladder, showing that we are as valuable leaders as anyone in society. When it comes to spirituality and being in that divine power, it still seems to be quite not as inclusive and not so easy to see so many women of color saying, I am a powerful divine being, I know it, and I express it. So for white women, it's about having the power to demonstrate control. I would say for women of color, it's about being safe to express that power so that there is no persecution, no repercussions, and no need to have a narrow understanding of power linked to our labor. It's just about us being divine beings because that divine power we know can touch everyone in any way at any time. However, it seems to be in the collective consciousness for women of color that power has to be earned in a certain way, and in certain fields. And that's the challenge that comes around power and women of color.
That's great. That's great what you shared. I, the image that came to me was, and I thought about, well, here in America, I thought about Joe Biden saying to people like, I think it was Joe Biden, like they're gonna put you back in chains or whatever, to black people in general. And but like that image came to my mind actually, like this idea of you rise up too much, they're gonna clamp down on us. They're gonna put us back where we came from, so to speak. Like this idea back into maybe slavery or whatever, like just putting you down, and although there's some universal feeling of that, I think for people of all different backgrounds, but like from your, from the history, I mean, like a lot more so for women of color, right? Black women particularly, perhaps. So yeah, that I think that's really significant. Is the generational, ancestral, all those sorts of things that are part of the energy dynamic that has us like got the radar up, like, wow, I've got to really watch it, or these things might happen to me, even though maybe they're not happening like where we live in society now, but to that extreme. But there's other things, other repercussions that happen instead. So could you talk more to that, like that? Because I know you work with the ancestral stuff and all that, like, because you're all about ultimately about this awakened power, like, don't look for the world outside to change and change their subconscious and mindset. Everything you have to change. You're ultimately about that, from what I've heard from you. So I think it's a multi-layered approach, but ultimately you're like, hey, black women have to claim their power back, and you help them to do that. So could you talk more about what you see with that, like what needs to be cleared up within the collective, the individuals, et cetera? Like, talk more about the patterns and whatnot.
So certainly from an ancestral perspective, we know there are patterns. We talk about, you just mentioned about slavery, for example. We can talk about still for a lot of people in the community, people of color in that community, that disproportionate experience in the justice system, health, education. This is an ancestral pattern which gets repeated. And as I say, is in the collective consciousness. And what can happen is then, as a community, and we've had very much about Black Lives Matter. Let's see what happens, what can happen to a person of color versus a person of non-color. And what can happen is we can start to accept it in our spiritual DNA as the norm. And there is this collective trauma which seems to be, oh goodness, I'm a person of color, this is a trauma, this is what I need to heal. And absolutely that makes sense, whether that's ancestral, whether that's understanding what's happened in your current life. What I'm talking about, and certainly when I'm talking about Black Goddess power, I'm talking about acknowledging that this has happened, being aware of the ancestral patterns which we can fall into, and think that I'm almost guaranteed to be a victim. But then what happens is, as a community, we can bond through trauma as opposed to going beyond the trauma. And Black Goddess Power is very much about, there are women of color, who are ready to experience greater possibilities. They know what's happened with their ancestors. They also know that for me, an excellent example of repeating an ancestral pattern is Billie Holiday, challenged by the American system, seen to be flouting her wealth, and therefore targeted and brought back into place. Like, who do you think you are? This is where you need to be in society. And for every Billie Holiday, there is the possibility of a CJ Walker who started her own company selling products to Black women, having a staff of Black women, a millionaire by today's standards, with a mansion, living next door to a Rockefeller. This is a woman in the 1920s who knew her power and walked her talk. And so this is very much about, although we can understand there is an energetic straitjacket, if you buy into it, about the opportunities available for women of color and for people of color in the community in general. And there is also energetic liberation. And it's very much about us understanding, seeing ourselves first as the divine. Hence, I'm talking about goddess, and then understanding this power is what we use to create our lives, rather than something we try to acquire or try to prove we have, or wait for approval from somebody else to give it to us, attach it to our job title, attach it to even our status as business owners. This liberation is available right now. And the way to sustain it is to recognize there may be some ancestral patterns in our unconscious, in our belief systems, in our understanding, and to a certain degree, acceptance of our limited self. And then we move beyond it. We do the spiritual work to move beyond it, because nothing is inevitable. This is what somebody like CJ Walker in the 1920s showed us. You could argue this is what Barack Obama showed us, but actually we'll really see it when we have a woman of color who is president, because that woman would have had to show consistently the integrity and the spirituality to say, this is who I am, and I am comfortable showing you how powerful I am on a consistent basis. And that is the trajectory for me around spiritual awakening, because very much we can say all women may have some form of power story, as we might have a money story. Here we are talking about women of color and saying very much, for whatever reason, these group of people are still feeling, not all, but I would say a predominant number are still gauging and negotiating their way around how it is to show up as powerful on a regular and consistent basis.
Right, right. I love the example of Kamala Harris, because yeah, I mean, because the idea is like, there is a, no matter what people's opinion of her, like again, we're coming from an objective, trying to come from an objective viewpoint. In other words, nonpartisan. Like, okay, what we believe about her as a person or politics. We're just looking at this dynamic with someone like herself, and the only way she was able to get into that position was to own that power. You know, she had to own that power, regardless if you like her or dislike her a lot. Like, doesn't matter. Ultimately, like, she had to own that power. You hate me. You think I'm a witch. You think I'm this. You think I'm that. Doesn't matter. Here I am. I'm here to be reckoned with either way. It doesn't matter if you think this or think that. That to me is what I'm seeing in that situation, regardless of our opinions of these people, right? Because it's kind of loaded when we go to politicians. So, but yeah, I mean that's what we're looking at it because there's a distinct difference too. I know that you make because we have whatever amount of time we have today, but there's a distinction too that that you've made that again as a white guy, you know, I'm pretty ignorant about all this, but largely other than the downloads I might have around it, but then there's a distinction too between the Black Goddess and giving attention to that is so sorely lacking versus like typically it's yes towards Black people like Black Lives Matter, but a lot of the energy goes more towards the men. It seems like I may be wrong about that, but I think I've heard you say that before. So would you agree with that? And why do you think that is it again like this patriarchal kind of thing, or is it something else, or why is it that Black women are not acknowledged, you know, for their particular struggles, maybe quite as much as Black men get a lot of attention? They're going to jail and you know whatever, and then there's all the obvious you know issues going on there. I think are kind of obvious, but yeah, if you could speak to that, I'd love to hear you to put more attention on that aspect.
Well, certainly for the Black men as leaders, because there's no, it's more accepted than female women of color being leaders. You know, there is no equivalent that I can think of. Not that there's never been one, but no one I can immediately think of who is the same status as Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. You know, there's no Jackie X, there's no Daniela X that we know about, but at the same time, what I understand about the Black Panther movement, for example, is a lot of the female leaders in that movement had a lot of power, which they exercised within the movement to make sure it was holistic. You know, again, you could see it as a political movement. It was also a social enterprise, an early social enterprise to make sure there was enough health and education in that community. But in terms of being an accepted leader who could lead the people, still those women of color found themselves relegated to support roles only. No, you don't have the fire. No, they're not believable. They can only talk about women's things, quote unquote. And that's the challenge around women leaders in general, particularly for women of color as leaders, because it seems to be so unusual and very few that we can claim and think of very quickly.
Right.
But when it comes to men and the injustice in the social system, in our justice system, what happens there, that disparity, for all the easier acceptability of Black men as leaders, they still can be perceived as a threat. So still that dynamic around, let's remember what your place is in this role. Again, just collective consciousness, still running that energy, that ancestral energy around subjugation and submission and compliance, which women of color also experience, except for their compliance is very much around reproduction, about how much of a labor you can be, a high profile a laborer you can be. And again, so how much of a leadership platform you're allowed to exercise. And then, as I say, that still plays out in our spiritual community, where there are probably a number of women of color of leaders who are leaders, whether they have the platform and the followers which really reflects their power capacity, may or may not be the same thing. So for whatever reason, we're still energetically entangled in the prove who you are first for a woman of color, and then we can follow. And until you prove it, we'll just default back to what we know: leaders who look like this, leaders who sound like this, leaders who seem to follow a nice, safe route, non-threatening as much as possible, and seem to comply with what we understand about safely expressing power. As I say, and the thing is, we know someone like Oprah must be exercising a significant amount of power to get where she is. And she gets public stick for, she's a billionaire, she's a billionaire. Yes, she's a billionaire. Yes, Rihanna's a billionaire. And that's two. So what is the discussion around it then? Because it would seem to me, if we know money is limitless and we know power is limitless, why is it then be reflected as limited to only a few? Something is happening there, whereas it's like a hypnosis. We've hypnotized ourselves into believing only so much is possible.
Right.
And this is what Black Goddess Power is about. Let's just dispel that hypnosis. It's gone on long enough. It's had its day. We understand what's happened. We understand how it continues to happen. And it's no longer something we need to accept going forward. In fact, right now, we can end it right now. Let's end it. Let's agree to end it right now and be the power we came to be.
Amen. Yeah, there's a lot of, I think, again, subconscious programming that, like for me and other white people and maybe probably people of other colors, right, that have about, we talked about women of color here, but a lot of this is about Black women that we're talking about today. But like when I see a Black woman who's like I saw this Black woman as a host of a show or whatever. I don't want to get into the details. It doesn't matter. But I saw her like kind of giving a white person a hard time, kind of. And then immediately I'm like, well, who does she think she is? And everything. But if a white person was doing it, I would have been like, hey, that's not too cool. But I wouldn't have been, who do you think you are? Like that, it's like reflexive. It's not like I'm trying to judge this person that way, but like it literally just is again, it's just a conditioning. Like, well, these are Black, like I didn't literally say this, but this I think is kind of in the back of the mind consciousness is saying something like, what, these Black women think they're all that, what do they think, and then there's like all these other ideas probably baked underneath, right? And I was given a whole load of conditioning around Black people as a kid. I was like, shut up to my parents. I was thinking in my head, like I never told them that, but like, a load of conditioning. I'm like, oh my God, mostly my dad, but anyway, we've got all that going on. But what I love about what you say is like, yeah, okay, those things to be addressed. We've got all these circles going on to reform the white people, everything. Then we've got like the Black goddesses in this case, like, okay, but there's work for us to do, like, you don't hear about that as much, at least lately these days. Like we too have work to do, right? I mean, and then some people get shut down if you ever say that, if you're white, because like, oh, shut up, you deal with you first. It's not right for you to say that, right? But you've heard you say that. We've got to deal with us. So you can speak on your authority, right? So I don't have to be shut down like me saying it, like, you shut up, you listen to us now for now. So yeah, but so I know you help with all these things, and we agreed for this to be 30 minutes ish, so I don't want to go on forever, but yeah, we could go on. This is a very deep subject, and it's very important. And could you tell people more about how you're helping others with this right now? Like, you could address anything I said, but like how you, I'm just riffing with you, but like, yeah, how are you helping Black women and women of color right now?
So first is to recognize that these messages around what our place is, quote unquote, that there is this conditioning, that there is these ancestral patterns. So all of that can be healed and forgiven very much, and that needs to be the start place. I mean, you can say that about most healing. Release, let go of what's holding you back. It's a similar scenario, except I would say with women of color, it goes very, very deep, and those messages and that condition is still live today. Is still happening even now, and then we move into the empowerment, because the healing is one thing. Absolutely harmonize your energy, absolutely understand that we are all born with a gift that we can share. The power is in having the courage to share it, to share it no matter what, to share it with power, to share it with consistency, to share it with belief, and to be aware of, actually, there's another conditioning message just over there. I see it, I acknowledge it, and it no longer impacts me. So it is a live conversation, energetic conversation. This is what I help women with, to be aware of what's being fed to us. We no longer need to accept it, but once we're mindful of it, we can be discerning about it, and we can attune ourselves spiritually to be of the essence where what we're following is universal laws. There are lots of rules and laws, human laws, that we need to abide by, and we're being asked to show that we comply with them. But what the guiding life objective is universal law. And that universal law says power is, you are divine, and then you live from that divinity. Anything else is just undermines that power. Anything else undermines our divinity, and anything else is a compromise too far. And that's how we end up experiencing the trauma. That's how we end up understanding that we are less than, and living as less than, and accepting it without question, and perceiving ourselves as the victim of life. So that is the way that you have the energetic alignment, almost a reset, one could argue. Let's reset you to back to divine. Hello, you're divine. So what do divine people do? They note what's going on, and then they make a decision, and then they make another decision. I'm still powerful. Oh yeah, absolutely. I see that. I'm still powerful, and I'll claim my power and express my power in this way. It is the power of choice, and that choice needs to be consistent. And for women of color, I say we do that as a community. We do that. I do that via Power Circle I have for women of color, and it's a bi-weekly circle. It's twice a month at the moment, and it will be stepped up as it's needed for women of color. This is where we come together to understand our power base, make it firm, make it strong, and then evolve and grow from there. This is difficult to do on your own, so there's no need to do it on your own. You come together with like-minded women, and you keep moving forward and keep growing.
Yeah, I mean, if women of color aren't stepping together to say this matters and to do something about it, then how is it going to change? To me, because we can throw money at governments and things like that. Oh, let's empower Black women. Let's do this. Let's do that, and that all makes some sort of difference, perhaps, for sure. But at the same time, if Black women of color are still like not dealing with like what they really need to deal with what you're talking about today. There'll always be a sense of victimhood. I'm not all that power. I'm just going with the hypnosis, as you say, and you flip the script by flipping it within yourself, whatever the issue is, in my opinion. So, because the hologram of the projection of it, uh, it's interconnected, so it starts to collapse that illusion within the collective at the same time, in my view, anyway. But
Mm.
I think you would agree, is why I say that. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
to try to create an argument or anything, but so yeah. So this circle is where it's happening with Jackie, and she definitely will help you start standing in that power. And if you're feeling kind of afraid about that, then that's why you need to be in the circle, because there's going to be a timidness about, oh my God, we're going to, what? This is, oh man, they're going to come get us or whatever. I don't know. Like, but that's why this exists, is to empower yourself and to take that step. So, I'm going to be putting a link into the group for you to check it out, this Power Circle. And then Jackie has a free meetup group as well. You'll see a little button on the side, Black Goddess. Is it Black Goddess Circle for the group? I forget the exact name, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Black Goddess Power
Power
Circle.
Circle, right? Yeah. So there's a link there for that for free. There is a very small charge for the circle, for the Power Circle. You could check that out. So I'm going to drop that link in literally like right now. Jackie's going to tell you a little bit more about it. So why don't you do that while I give them the link?
Yeah, so this power circle is very much about us coming together and starting to allow our spirituality to unfold. It's meditation, it's prayer, it's very much about nurturing our spirit. And for me, the power circle is this sustenance, this spiritual sustenance. What's going to sustain us as we become more powerful? What's going to help us recognize that we might be falling into or following ancestral patterns without any discernment, without questioning them or querying them, because we've been doing it for so long and it seems to be the norm, and it is the norm. It doesn't have to be the current norm, it doesn't have to continue. It's a pattern which may or may not be serving. And in that power circle, you get the tools to understand this may be serving somebody else. It actually isn't serving me as a divine being. And that's what the circle is about. We start to look at that safely. It's a safe space to do that because it's with other women of color. And the whole aim is a power circle. We're generating power. We're also working with Mother Earth energy because she is about as powerful as you can get. She's very much about anchoring our power so that nothing knocks us over. We stay strong no matter what. And not because, oh, look at me, I'm so tough, I can do it. No, it's because you're just strong and because power just is strong. So that's what the circle is all about.
Yeah, and you're also, I mean, there's so much to try to cover in this. It's a very deep, rich thing you have to offer, and it's a step by step process. Like many things, right? So, but it's a step by step process, and this is like the foundation. Yet, too, there's like the really reclaiming of that. Again, because I've worked with you, I know what you've talked about with me, but reclaiming that power of you uh, from more your deeper roots, even in your ancestral lineage as a Black Goddess, and that also becomes a part of this work that you're doing with Jackie, step by step. I'm sure we I take the whole can't take the whole staircase at once, as Martin said anyway.
Yeah.
But we're going to take it step by step. Jackie is a powerful person. She brings powerful leadership energy to this, and a lot of illumination support. And I know her channel prayers in our circles. She's definitely really well known for that. She's a great channel. So yeah, with all that in mind, I don't want to leave people disappointed if they're wondering if you're going to bring a couple channeled messages real briefly, or if you have a channeled message or two for all the Black Goddesses that might be tuning in right now.
What's coming through for me to say to anyone watching this message is for you. That it may be that for some time you've doubted yourself, doubted your place in this world, whether you belong, whether there is something you need to do to keep fitting in with what you're told you need to do to fit in. This in and of itself can act as the energetic straitjacket. This in and of itself can act as a form of bondage. And this is now about liberating your soul, liberating your spirit, allowing yourself to fly with confidence, knowing that your wings will sustain you. No need to second guess anymore. No need to look to others to confirm whether you are and who you are anymore. Those are patterns and thoughts and beliefs of the past. We are beyond this. It just appears as if we are still working our way through what needs to happen to bring through the fruition, the unfoldment of your power, of your divinity. But know this has already happened. What will sustain you is to be with others who confirm what you know is the new reality back to you. Accept this, accept your oneness, accept your oneness with power, accept your oneness with nature, accept your oneness with life and with love. Now and consistently, you are one with life and power. Accept the invitation if it's speaking to you.
Mhm.
That's it.
So it is. Amen. Okay. There's a form of prayer right there, right? The beckoning call to all of us, and particularly today, the Black Goddesses today. So, man, I feel like we should have opened up 2 or 3 hours at least for this. I could just feel like we could really keep going. This is really amazing. So thank you so much, Jackie, for sharing today. And everybody, feel free to go ahead and join the circle if it speaks to you. And I'm just so grateful. Make sure you enjoy. You connect with Jackie. You can find her on Facebook and I think on Instagram, right? And I think maybe on LinkedIn too. So check her out on all the different platforms as well, and stay connected with Jackie. She's on the rise. Let's support her movement, your movement through her, right? So this vision, and so it is. Amen. So I'm so grateful for you all gathering here today. Thank you, Jackie, for coming here and sharing all this. And I'm just so heart filled with blessings for you and for what you're standing for. Thank you all. So thanks so much. Just thanks so much, Jackie.
Thank you, Daniel, for giving me the opportunity to speak. I appreciate it so much.
Good thing. Okay. Oh, one last thing, everybody. If you have platforms where you would love to feature Jackie as well, reach out to her. I'm encouraging her, and she's gonna. I can tell she's getting ready, but she's gonna be wanting to be on it, like stage after stage after stage, sharing her message. Let's get this thing moving forward. Thank you all in advance. Okay. Lots of love, everybody, and goodbye for now.